Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Janetta, and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our meeting today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair, that is. Now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Janetta, and welcome, everyone. Whether you are watching live or later, your energy, your presence matters, and we're happy to have you watching. So, here at Unity of Fredericksburg, we've been following a theme of talking about unity foundations through this year. And today we are looking at what unity has to say about levels of consciousness. Levels of consciousness. And we're going to start with a story, or you might think of it as a poem or something like this. It's by a woman named Portia Nelson. She was an American singer, actress, writer born in the 1920s, and she played one of the nuns in the Sound of Music films. So you might recognize her from that, Portia Nelson. And this is called Autobiography in 5 Chapters. You may have heard it before. Autobiography in 5 Chapters. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. So, yay, take a moment to applaud that. Isn't that a lovely piece by Portia Nelson? And isn't that the way of things? Isn't that the way of things? When we first encounter an error in our own thinking, a pattern in our beliefs that leads us to no good over and over again, the first thing we tend to do is look outside of us for what or who to blame. Now, I ask you all, don't be too hard on yourself about that, because this is actually how our brains are wired to do things. Our brains are wired to scan the outer material world for cause and effect and things like that. This is an automatic process. But of course, as we learn and grow, we come to know that very often the cause, the error is something within ourselves. something that we're carrying without realizing it in our consciousness. So that's what we're looking at today, levels of consciousness. So a lot of times I like to start with a definition of like, what is consciousness? This is a word that we toss around a lot. It feels like a really big concept, and indeed it is, but let's start by just kind of getting a simple handle on it. And I started with Wikipedia. I am an ongoing donor to Wikimedia. So if you use that source to get information, I suggest you consider that. It is a not-for-profit that's out there as a public collaborative encyclopedia. So here's what Wikipedia says about consciousness. Consciousness at its simplest is awareness of internal and external existence. All right, awareness of internal and external existence. Now, our unity teachings tell us that consciousness is made up of our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, and our attitudes. Thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and attitudes. So our awareness of who we are, our awareness of the world around us, how we interpret what happens to us, is shaped by and filtered through what we are holding in consciousness. Those thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and attitudes. So we know that here in Central Virginia, yesterday was a dreary, rainy day. And our experience of that day would have been shaped by what our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and attitudes are about a rainy day. Were you, I think we were talking before about somebody who was feeling agitated, wanted to keep going outside, but it wasn't a good day for going outside, right? So some people might, be depressed. It's a rainy day. Some people might be rejoicing. It's a day to stay inside and have a hot cup of whatever and read a book. So how you experience this circumstance of a rainy day has to do with what you're holding in consciousness. It's all about consciousness. Learning and growing in our human lives and spiritual lives is a lifelong, ongoing process of working with our own consciousness. So one of the primary sources in unity is this book called Heart-Centered Metaphysics, written by Paul Hasselbeck. So we're going to look real quick at what Paul Hasselbeck says about consciousness and working with our consciousness. So I'm reading from the book here. The development of consciousness is key to demonstrating our good and overcoming the stuff that happens in our lives. Kind-hearted development of consciousness requires self-awareness, self-knowledge, and awareness of the process of the evolution of the awareness of spirit or divine mind. It also requires substantial time invested in meditating in the silence and prayer. So this is something that we look at in unity. If we're learning and growing in this life, then we're always working with our consciousness. And we do toss around the word consciousness quite a lot in different ways. We might say positive consciousness or sense consciousness or Christ consciousness. Today, we're looking at levels of consciousness. And that brings us back to our opening story, the autobiography in 5 chapters by Portia Nelson. So if you recall, in chapters 1 and 2, there's this refrain of, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Because we're just, when we encounter something new, our brain, like I said, is built to scan the outer world. So we're looking for something or somebody to blame because we're not responsible. This is not my fault. So when you're in that kind of a mode, you are in what we call victim consciousness. Now, this is not new to you all. We all know our moments, victim consciousness. So who might be at fault? My parents, the government, my boss, my genetics did this to me. right? That's being in victim consciousness. And it's important for us to be mindful, because even when we're all grown up and enlightened, victim consciousness can show up in certain areas of our life. Things change. All of a sudden there's we experience loss, and then all of a sudden in an area of relationship or finances or health, we're all of a sudden back in some kind of victim consciousness. So when you find yourself casting about for something or somebody to be responsible for what you're experiencing, this is victim consciousness. So that's a sign for you to take a breath, be gentle with yourself, and start working on developing your consciousness and making a change. So as we learn and grow, often our next step after victim consciousness is to rise into what is called victor consciousness. So victor consciousness is at work when we are framing our experiences as a competition or a battle, right? So I'm going to get it done, or I'm going to be first in line, or I'm going to, I was remembering when the pandemic first happened and there was a rush on toilet paper. I'm going to get out there and get all that toilet paper before everyone else gets the toilet paper, right? And we often will see this kind of victor consciousness, unfortunately, in medical settings, with the languaging around, I'm fighting cancer, I'm going to win this battle. And we also see it in spiritual settings, because I will very often see calls for prayer on social media, calling spiritual warriors to come out and battle. So victor consciousness is very much a material world perspective, an outer world perspective. And of course, we're working on developing our inner knowing of oneness. So when I'm in victor consciousness, I am seeking to have my world, and it can be my thoughts, my feelings, controlled by me, right? So I've gone from life happening to me in victim consciousness to life happening by me in victor consciousness. Now, it's really easy for us to slide into this way of thinking because it's so pervasive in our society. And we're not just talking about, I think of the realm of organized sports. There's certainly lots of competition in there, but when you find yourself in your thinking and in your feelings engaging in competitive energy that's not for fun, but that is for your ego wanting to dominate or control some circumstances in your life. I'm going to say this first, the best defense is a good offense. This is all victor consciousness. When you notice that, take a breath, be gentle with yourself, and start working on making some changes, right? So the next level of consciousness, as we kind of move our way up this vertical model that Unity provides us, is something that will feel very familiar to us, because many of us function at this level, and it's called vessel consciousness. So vessel consciousness is when we realize that there is this outer, not outer, erase that, this greater energy of good, of goodness, that is weaving its way through all the circumstances of our lives beyond the constraints of the physical world. So we might call that God. We might call it spirit, the universe, divine mind, divine love. As we go about our human lives, we realize we have the capacity to serve as a channel for the expression of this energy of goodness, and we feel like it flows through us, right? That's vessel consciousness. We've grown from seeing life as happening to me on a human level and asserting ourselves and making things happen in the outer world by me. And now we're able to see goodness flowing through me or as me. Now, I do want to kind of, give some pros and cons on this. A lot of this will feel really comfortable and good to you, like thinking of divine love through me and as me. This can be really wonderful and a really wonderful mindset and consciousness to be in for doing good in the world. However, we want to be aware that vessel consciousness can still include some beliefs of limitation. So many of us were taught to see this goodness as existing outside of us like an outer God, right? Even if that God is loving, if we're still thinking of it as an outer God, then we're not in oneness, are we? We're in this kind of vessel consciousness. That good is outside of me. And if I am good and generous, I'm able to be a vessel for it. Likewise, many of us were taught as we were good that we are sinners and that we have to do all these good things. We have to repent and atone for all those things so that we can become a vessel for the flow of goodness. So what we're aiming for ultimately is oneness consciousness. So you can see that there's vessel consciousness can be a really great place to be, but there is a difference between vessel consciousness and what we really want to do when we're in oneness. So when you notice yourself functioning, particularly from these kind of hidden cultural layers that have to do with sin and an outer God, again, it's just time to just take a breath. Just take a breath, be gentle with yourself, and work on reframing those thoughts and feelings to come into alignment with oneness. So we're aiming for oneness consciousness, or in this model that we're doing, which is like victim, victor, vessel. This is called verity consciousness. So that's a word that's not very commonly used. So of course I looked it up. Let's see what it says. And essentially it just means truth. Verity is a truth principle. So for those who are familiar with the Bible and the King James version of the Bible, sometimes Jesus would be quoted as saying, "Verily, verily, I say unto you." So this is kind of truly, truly, I'm telling you the truth. So verity consciousness is in alignment with absolute truth. And absolute truth is oneness, where there is no separation between me and all that is. There is only all that is. There's not you and God. There's only God. So even when we say we are an expression of God or the universe, there's still this kind of energy of separation there in a very subtle sort of way. So our goal for developing consciousness is to be in verity consciousness, where we are flowing as the expression and energy of that which is called God or all that is. So I encourage you, as we've done along the way here today, be easy with yourself, gentle, kind, compassionate. We often think of these things as things we do for others, but I am encouraging you to do this with yourself. All right. Your human brain believes in the separation. Your ego believes in the separation. So you will find yourself in those kinds of thinking. And it's just a matter of noticing. All right. Noticing and bringing yourself back in this practice of coming into oneness consciousness. We are at all times 100% in these bodies, living human lives, 100% human, and at the same time, because we understand this concept of oneness, we are 100% divine. So this toggling back and forth between looking with your outer eyes, seeing with your inner eyes, this is a natural process. So you just learn to notice, like, oh, there I go, getting into this, this thinking. Let me pull myself back. I understand these levels of consciousness. Let me work with my consciousness, work with my thoughts, my words, my actions. And it's an ongoing practice. And that's what we call it, spiritual practice, right? So let's just review one more time. Go back to that opening story. First, we fall in the hole, right? We're looking for someone, something to blame. It's not our fault. Life is happening to me. Then we learn to take control of the situation, see the whole, choose to change my habits. Life is happening by me. I'm going to win. Then we recognize the whole. We choose not to go near it. Perhaps we can bless it and bless all that we've learned from all of that falling in the hole. Life is happening through me, as me. And ultimately, we choose another street, another path. We have no need to keep going to that hole and reframing that experience. That is human life happening. We don't need to participate in that particular game anymore of that street, that hole, because all that is me. I am that I am. Divine. So we're going to take all that into our time of meditation. So take a couple of deep breaths with me right here, right now. And if you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed. And if not, we've got a pretty picture there for you to rest your eyes on. And in this space of stillness that we are establishing together, I encourage you to look at these levels of consciousness as a spiral, that we are always working on, moving our way generally upward. You can see this wonderful kind of vertical spiral and give it colors that make sense to you, that give you joy. If you think of maybe the color of what victim consciousness feels like to you, what color is victor consciousness? What color pattern is vessel consciousness and verity consciousness? And we're looking at this as a spiral because in general, as we learn and grow, we're generally moving up, and sometimes things happen in our outer lives. So just to, allow an image of something that has happened to come in. And so we might slide down, but we're not sliding all the way down. We're just sliding down a little bit. We're noticing. When that happens, we are saying, I'm gentle and compassionate with myself. I am kind and encouraging with myself. So now we're going to take this image of the spiral and this continual general movement upward and occasionally sliding down and being gentle with ourselves. We're going to take this into the silence together, right here, right now. And as we begin to bring our attention back to this moment here and now, let's bring your attention to your feet resting gently on the floor. Let's call that the earth. And moving our attention gently up through the body. Bringing our awareness back to the body, to the seat we're sitting in. Up the spine, moving our attention gently through our core, through the shoulders and arms, up through the neck and the head, and coming back into this moment. You can open your eyes, and we're going to close this time with an affirmation. So here's the affirmation I have for you today. I delight in learning and growing into oneness consciousness. Let me say it for you again. You can say it with me if you like. I delight in learning and growing into oneness consciousness. One more time. I delight in learning and growing into oneness consciousness. And so it is, my friends. That's it for me. And I'm going to hand it back to my friend Johnetta.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Cheryl. And thank you for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.